Blood hit chrome. A 12-year-old girl carved 3 letters into a biker's gas tank with her own torn flesh. SOS. She couldn't scream. Trauma had stolen her voice, so she bled her message instead. 50 Hells Angels watched it happen. What they did next would expose a United States senator, destroy a trafficking network spanning 3 states, and ignite a war that shook the nation. Heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they wear leather. Subscribe now. Stay until the end. Comment your city. I want to see how far this story rides. The girl's hand was shaking when she pressed it against the chrome. Jake Storm Henderson saw it happening. Couldn't process it fast enough. 1 second, a skinny blonde kid stood near his Harley. Next second, blood smeared across his gas tank. SOS. His coffee cup hit the asphalt, shattered. What the? Brown eyes locked onto his. Enormous, hollow, 12 years old, maybe younger. Blonde hair tangled, unwashed. A cardboard sign crumpled at her feet. Hungry, please help, God bless. But she wasn't begging for money, she was begging for her life. Hey! A man's voice cut across the parking lot. Thick accent, Eastern European. Stupid girl, come here, now! The girl flinched hard. Her bloody hand pressed against her chest, leaving a crimson handprint on her dirty shirt. Storm had seen things. 3 tours in Iraq, 15 years leading the Hells Angels New Mexico chapter. Brothers dying in his arms, villages burning, children running from bombs. He'd never seen a kid slice herself open to send a message. Hold on, sweetheart. His voice came out rough, broken. I see you. I hear you. Her mouth opened. Lips moved. Nothing came out. Not a whisper. Not a breath. Mute. The word punched through Storm's chest like shrapnel. This child had no voice, so she'd made one. In blood. The handler reached them fast. Greasy hair, rat eyes, cigarette behind his ear. He grabbed the girl's arm hard enough to bruise bone. Sorry, fake smile, dead eyes. She is touched in head, always problems. Come, Emma. Emma. Storm stepped forward, 6'3", 240, covered in ink and leather, the kind of man people cross streets to avoid. She's bleeding. We have bandages in van. I said she's bleeding. Marcus Hammer Williams materialized at Storm's shoulder. 6'5", built like a tank. Hadn't smiled since Bush was president. Problem, boss? Not yet. Storm kept his eyes on the handler. What's your name? Victor. Oil-slick smile. Just passing through. El Paso. With a bleeding kid who can't talk? Victor's jaw tightened. She is my niece. Medical problems. Specialist in El Paso. Storm pulled 100 from his vest. Held it toward Emma. For the sign. You earned it. Victor's eyes went hungry, but Storm kept the bill just out of reach. She takes it, not you. Emma reached with her good hand. Storm caught her wrist, gentle, turned it palm up. His blood turned to ice. Scars, dozens of them, small, round, covering her palm, her forearm, disappearing under her sleeve. Cigarette burns, old ones, faded white, fresh ones, angry pink. A roadmap of hell written on a child's skin. Emma's eyes met his. Help me, please. I'm dying. Victor yanked her back, snatched the 100. We go now. Thank you. He dragged Emma toward a white van, Arizona plates, tinted windows. Another man behind the wheel, watching. Storm stood frozen, heart slamming, mind racing. Boss, Hammer's voice dropped to a growl. That what I think it was? Storm photographed his tank. The bloody letters gleamed in the September sun. Get Ghost, get Reaper, now. Cops? By the time cops mobilize, that van's in Mexico. Storm watched Victor shove Emma into the back. She pressed her bloody palm against the window, stared at him. We're not losing her. Hammer didn't argue. The Hells Angels had rolled into this truck stop for gas. 50 riders, charity run to Phoenix, veterans mostly, men who'd served their country and come home to find it didn't want them anymore. Wrong. Their country needed them right now. That little girl needed them right now. Reaper! Storm's voice cracked like a whip. Tracker kit, white van, Arizona plates. You've got 90 seconds. Danny Reaper Rodriguez moved like smoke. 25 years old. Army intelligence washout. Got discharged for breaking an officer's nose after the man called dead Afghan kids acceptable losses. No questions. No hesitation. Shadow to shadow, he closed on the van. Ghost, run those plates. Thomas Ghost Patterson was already typing. 12 years NSA. Burned out. Found family in the club. Shell Company. Sunrise Transport, LLC. Phoenix P.O. Box. His fingers flew. Connected to a Dmitry Volkov. Russian national. Suspected trafficking. Never convicted. Witnesses keep dying. Where's Volkov now? Working on it. The van's engine started. Storm's gut clenched. Reaper? Done. Reaper appeared beside him, breathing normal. Military grade. They won't find it. Mount up. We follow. Nobody gets close. Nobody spooks them. Hammer grabbed his arm. Storm. Think. 50 bikers chasing traffickers across state lines. That girl bled on my bike, Hammer. Storm's voice shook. She looked at 50 strangers and picked me. Picked us. You want to tell her she was wrong? Hammer's grip loosened. Hell no. Let's ride. 50 Harleys fired up, thunder rolling across the desert. Storm led them onto I-10, keeping the white van in sight. Not too close, not too far. Ghost pulled alongside, phone pressed to his ear. Got something, he had to shout over the wind. Emma Martinez, 12, reported missing from Las Cruces 4 months ago. Mother's a junkie, father unknown. CPS had a file thicker than my arm. Nobody looked hard when she vanished. Storm's knuckles went white on the handlebars. What else? Ghost's face changed. Something dark crossed it. Sophie Martinez, 10 years old, Emma's sister. Different father, same mother. Reported missing 8 months before Emma. The desert blurred. Storm blinked hard. 2 sisters, taken 8 months apart. The mother sold them, Storm. Had to. These networks don't just grab kids randomly. They buy them. Where's Sophie now? If she's alive, she's wherever this network operates from. The van's just transport. They move kids through waypoints, then deliver them somewhere bigger. An auction, Hammer's voice was flat. Dead. That's how it works. Collect merchandise, sell to highest bidder. Merchandise. Storm wanted to vomit. 3 hours. The van kept rolling. Through Las Cruces. Past Deming. Desert stretched endless on both sides. Sunlight turned orange, then red, then purple. The van pulled off near Lordsburg. Population, 2,500. A motel that looked like it hadn't been renovated since Reagan. Ghost, find us eyes. Abandoned gas station, half-mile east. Clear sightlines. The club peeled off one by one, regrouped in the old service bay. Storm set up a command post using camping lanterns and a folding table. Wizard, medical status. Dr. Samuel Wizard Chen looked up from his kit. Former combat medic, current EMT. Hands that had held dying soldiers together, now prepped for something worse. Ready for anything. How many kids? Unknown. Best guess? Storm stared at the motel through broken windows. Pray it's only Emma. Reaper returned from scouting. His face said everything. 2 men entered room 112, came out 20 minutes later, went to 108, carried food. How much food? 8, maybe 10 meals. Storm's stomach dropped. More than 4 people. Way more. Ghost's laptop pinged. Boss. Financial records. Sunrise Transport made 6 deposits this month, all from different shell companies, All exactly $40,000. Per kid? Per kid. That's $240,000. 6 children. Minimum. Could be more from other sources. Storm addressed his brothers. 50 men in leather, faces hard as the desert stone. Here's what we know. At least 6 kids in that motel. 2, maybe 3 traffickers. They're moving them somewhere bigger. An auction probably. We don't know when. We don't know where. But we know one thing. He held up his phone. The photo of his bloody tank glowed in the darkness. That little girl asked for our help. She's 12 years old. She can't speak. She cut herself open because she thought we might be the kind of men who'd do something about it. Storm's voice cracked. Are we those men? 50 voices answered as one. Hell yes! Then tonight we watch. We learn their patterns. We count their guns. And tomorrow, Ghost's laptop shrieked an alert. Movement! Room 108. 2 men coming out, heading to the van. Storm grabbed binoculars, ran to the window. Victor and another man crossed the parking lot, opened the van's back doors. A small figure tumbled out, then another, then another, then another. 4 children, girls, youngest maybe 6, oldest maybe 12. Victor grabbed the oldest by her hair, dragged her toward room 108. She didn't scream, didn't fight, went limp like a rag doll, like she'd learned that fighting made it worse. Storm's vision went red. Change of plans, Hammer stepped forward. Storm, we're not waiting until tomorrow. The motel has civilians. Ghost pulls the fire alarm remotely. Building clears. We go in during the confusion. And if this goes sideways? Storm turned to face his brother. His eyes were wet. His jaw was iron. Then we die doing something that matters. 247. The Hells Angels moved into position. 8 men covered rear exits. 8 more locked down the parking lot. 34 formed an outer perimeter, ready for anything. Storm led the breach team. Hammer left, Reaper right, Wizard trailing with his medical bag. 259. Ghost killed the exterior lights remotely. 300. Fire alarm screamed. Doors burst open across the motel. Confused guests stumbled out in underwear and bathrobes, searching for flames that didn't exist. Room 108 stayed dark. Breach! Hammer hit the door like a freight train. Cheap lock exploded inward. Storm went first, flashlight cutting darkness. Victor stood center room, gun half raised, mouth hanging open. Storm's fist connected before Victor could blink. Jaw cracked, body dropped. Second man lunged from the bathroom. Reaper intercepted. Throat strike, knee to groin, down. Clear left, clear right, clear rear. Storm swept his light toward the corner. 4 girls huddled against the wall, arms locked around each other, eyes wide, breath held, waiting for the next horror. Emma was in the middle. She saw Storm, her whole body convulsed with silent sobs. He holstered his weapon, dropped to his knees. Emma, look at me. It's okay. You did it. You found help. She launched herself at him, 40 pounds of desperation and hope. Arms around his neck, tears soaking his cut. He held her. This child who'd bled to save herself, who'd trusted a stranger to answer. You're safe, he whispered. I've got you. But Emma was still shaking, still crying, and her hand was pressing something into his palm. Paper, folded tight. Storm opened it one-handed, kept Emma pressed against his chest. 2 words, a child's desperate scrawl. My sister. His heart stopped. Sophie, your sister? Frantic nodding. You know where she is? Emma pulled back, pointed east, made shapes with her hands. A building. Horses. A ranch? Yes, yes, her whole body screamed yes. How far? Emma held up fingers, counted, stopped at 3. 3 hours? Nodding, tears streaming. Storm looked at Ghost. Find it. Now. Already searching. If it's connected to this network, it is. Find it. Emma grabbed Storm's face, both hands, forced him to look at her. Her lips moved slowly, carefully, shaping words she couldn't speak. Save her. Please. She's only 10. Storm's throat closed. I promise. Emma's eyes searched his, looking for lies, finding none. She collapsed against his chest, shaking, trusting, done. Behind them, sirens wailed. Red and blue lights painted the desert. Time to move, Hammer said. Local cops incoming. Let them have the mess. Storm lifted Emma. She weighed nothing. A whisper, a ghost. But her grip on his neck could have bent steel. The other kids? Wizards got them. All stable, all terrified, all alive. The traffickers? Zip-tied and bleeding. They'll live, unfortunately. Storm carried Emma to his bike, sat her in front of him, wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. She looked up at him, lips moving. Where are we going? Storm started his Harley. The engine roared to life. To get your sister. The night swallowed them whole. 50 motorcycles vanished into darkness. 4 rescued children. 2 broken traffickers left for the cops. But somewhere east, in a compound Storm couldn't yet see, more children waited. And a 10-year-old girl named Sophie didn't know that help was coming, that her sister had bled for her, that 50 angels in leather were riding through the night, that everything was about to change. Storm twisted the throttle. The desert flew past. Emma pressed against his chest, her heartbeat finally slowing. Behind them, the motel erupted in flashing lights and shouting cops. Ahead, war waited, and the Hells Angels were just getting started. The desert highway stretched like a black ribbon under the moonlight. Storm kept Emma pressed against his chest, her small body trembling with each mile. Behind him, 49 Harleys roared in formation, a river of chrome and fury cutting through the New Mexico night. Ghost's voice crackled through the Bluetooth headset. Got a hit on the compound. Ranch property outside El Paso. Registered to another shell company. Same network. How far? 200 miles. 3 hours if we push it. Storm glanced down at Emma. Her eyes were closed, but she wasn't sleeping. Her fingers gripped his jacket like she was afraid he'd disappear. We push it. Hammer pulled alongside. His face was stone in the moonlight. Storm, we need to talk. The kids we rescued, they're traumatized. Wizard says one of them hasn't stopped shaking since we pulled her out. Pastor Daniel's expecting them. Safe house and truth or consequences. That's an hour in the wrong direction. Then we split up. Storm made the decision instantly. You take 20 brothers, get those kids to safety. I take the rest. We keep moving toward the compound. Hammer's jaw tightened. You're going in with 30 men instead of 50? 30 Hells Angels against a bunch of child traffickers? Storm's voice was ice. They should pray for more men on their side. Hammer almost smiled. Almost. Don't die before I get there. Wouldn't dream of it. The formation split at the next junction. 20 bikes peeled south toward truth or consequences. 30 continued east toward El Paso, toward Sophie, toward whatever hell waited at that compound. Emma stirred against Storm's chest. Her hand found his arm, squeezed. He looked down. Her lips moved in the wind. Silent words he couldn't hear but somehow understood. Thank you. Don't stop. Save her. I promised, he said aloud, knowing she couldn't hear him over the engine. I don't break promises. 2 hours into the ride, Ghost called another stop, a rest area outside Deming. Empty except for a few long-haul truckers catching sleep in their cabs. Storm carried Emma to a picnic table, set her down gently. Her legs dangled, too short to reach the ground. You need water, food. She shook her head. Emma, look at me. Those brown eyes met his. So much pain in them. So much fear. But something else too. Something that looked almost like hope. Your sister needs you strong. Understand? You can't help Sophie if you collapse. Eat, drink, rest. Emma's lower lip trembled, then she nodded. Wizard appeared with a protein bar and a bottle of water. He knelt in front of Emma, his voice soft. "Hey there, sweetheart. I'm Sam. I'm a doctor. Can I look at your hand?" Emma glanced at Storm. He nodded. She extended her palm, the one she'd sliced open to write those 3 letters. Wizard unwrapped the makeshift bandage Storm had applied earlier. His face stayed neutral, but Storm saw his jaw clench. "It's not too deep. Won't need stitches." Wizard cleaned the wound with antiseptic. Emma didn't flinch. "You're brave, you know that? Braver than most soldiers I've worked on." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Storm turned away, pulled out his phone, dialed a number he hadn't used in 3 years. It rang twice. "Who the hell is calling me at 2 in the morning?" "Rachel, it's Storm." Silence. Then, "Jake Henderson, I thought you were dead." "Not yet. I need your help." "Last time you needed my help, I almost lost my badge." "This is different." "It's always different with you." Storm closed his eyes. "Children, Rachel. Trafficked children. I've got 4 in protective custody and intel on a compound that might have dozens more. Your office has a leak. You can't move through official channels. But I can." More silence, longer this time. "Where?" "Ranch outside El Paso, shell company ownership, connected to a network run by someone named Dmitry Volkov." Rachel Morgan inhaled sharply. "Volkov. We've been hunting him for 2 years. Every time we get close, he vanishes." "He's not vanishing tonight." "Storm, if you go in there guns blazing..." "I'm not going in guns blazing. I'm going in smart. But I need backup when the dust settles. Someone I can trust to take custody of the evidence and the kids. Someone who won't tip off the wrong people." Rachel was quiet for 10 seconds. 20. "I can be in El Paso by dawn, unofficial, off the books. But Storm, if this goes wrong, I can't protect you." "I don't need protection. I need someone to catch what I throw." "You always were a stubborn bastard. That's why you like me." She laughed despite herself. "Stay alive, Jake. I'll see you at sunrise." The line went dead. Ghost appeared at Storm's shoulder. "Got more intel. The compound has at least 4 buildings. Main house, a converted barn, 2 outbuildings. Satellite imagery shows vehicles coming and going at night. Heat signatures suggest 20, maybe 30 occupants." "How many guards?" "Unknown, but the property has dogs. At least 4, maybe more." "What about the kids?" "Best guess? They're in the barn. It's been modified. New windows, reinforced doors. The kind of changes you make when you're holding people inside." Storm stared at the map Ghost had pulled up on his tablet. The compound sat in the middle of nowhere. Desert on all sides. 1 road in, 1 road out. A kill box if things went wrong. "What about the auction?" "That's the bad news." Ghost's voice dropped. "I found chatter on dark web forums. An event scheduled for tomorrow night. Fresh inventory. Code words for kids. Buyers are already arriving." Storm's hands clenched into fists. "How many buyers?" "At least a dozen confirmed. These aren't street-level predators, Storm. These are wealthy, connected people. Politicians, business executives, the kind of people who never face consequences." "They'll face consequences tomorrow." Reaper jogged over. "Boss, we've got company." Storm followed his gaze. A black SUV had pulled into the rest area. Tinted windows, government plates. "That was fast," Ghost muttered. "Too fast." Storm's hand moved toward his weapon. Rachel said, "Dawn, this isn't her." The SUV's doors opened. 3 men stepped out. Suits, earpieces, the unmistakable look of federal agents. The lead man walked toward Storm with his hand extended. "Mr. Henderson, I'm Special Agent Thomas Burke, FBI. We'd like a word." Storm didn't take the hand. "Who told you I was here?" Burke's smile didn't reach his eyes. We have mutual interests. The children you recovered tonight, we'd like to take them into protective custody. They're already in protective custody. With respect, a motorcycle club isn't equipped to. With respect, Agent Burke, I don't know you. I don't trust you. And considering there's a leak in your department that's been protecting Dmitry Volkov for 2 years, you'll understand why I'm not handing vulnerable children over to the first suit who shows up in the middle of the night. Burke's smile vanished. Those are serious accusations. They're serious facts. Now get back in your vehicle and drive away. Or don't. Storm stepped closer. Your choice. The two agents behind Burke tensed, hands moving toward holsters. Behind Storm, 30 Hells Angels spread out, engines still running, ready. Burke looked at the bikers, counted them, did the math. This isn't over, Henderson. No, it's not. But tonight, you're leaving. Burke held Storm's gaze for a long moment. Then he turned, walked back to the SUV. His men followed. The doors slammed. Engines started. Tires peeled out. Gone. Ghost let out a breath. That was close. That was a warning. Storm watched the taillights disappear. They know we're coming. Someone tipped them. Who? I don't know, but we need to move. Now, before they have time to clear out the compound. Emma tugged at Storm's sleeve. He looked down. She was holding up her phone. The one Wizard had given her so she could communicate. 3 words typed on the screen. They have cameras. Storm's blood chilled. What do you mean? Emma typed frantically. At the motel, hidden cameras. They know what we look like. They know our bikes. How do you know this? I saw them. The men talked about it. Said boss watches everything. Storm grabbed Ghost's arm. They've been watching. The motel, the truck stop, everything. They know we're coming. Ghost's face went pale. If they know we're coming, they'll move the kids. Or worse. Storm turned to his brothers. Mount up. We ride hard. No stops until El Paso. 30 engines roared to life. Storm lifted Emma onto his bike, climbed on behind her. Hold tight, sweetheart. She gripped the handlebars, nodded once. The Hells Angels tore out of the rest area like a hurricane. 90 miles an hour. 100. The desert blurred into a streak of darkness and stars. Ghost's voice came through the headset, strained. Storm, I'm intercepting communications from the compound. They're panicking. Orders coming from someone called the Bishop. They're debating whether to terminate inventory or relocate. Terminate? Their word, not mine. Storm's throttle twisted harder. ETA? 45 minutes at this speed. Make it 30. The miles vanished beneath their wheels. Storm's mind raced faster than his bike. The Bishop. New player. Above Volkov? Or working alongside him? The FBI showing up too fast. Too convenient. Someone had made a call. Emma's revelation about the cameras. The network was sophisticated, organized, protected, and they were about to kick the hornet's nest. His phone buzzed. Text from Hammer. Kids delivered safe. Pastor Daniel has them. En route to your position. 90 minutes out. Storm typed back with one hand. Might not have 90 minutes. They know we're coming. Then stall until we get there. Can't stall. They're talking about killing the kids. No response for 30 seconds. Then, ride faster. We're coming. The outskirts of El Paso appeared on the horizon. City lights glowing against the pre-dawn darkness. Somewhere out there, in the desert beyond those lights, children were running out of time. Ghost navigated them off the main highway, onto back roads, dirt trails that rattled their bikes and coated them in dust. 2 miles out, kill the lights. 30 headlights died simultaneously. The Hells Angels became ghosts, riding by moonlight and memory. There, Ghost pointed, 1/2 mile. See the buildings? Storm saw them. Dark shapes against the lighter desert. The main house, the barn, 2 smaller structures. A few vehicles parked near the main entrance. How many guards? Thermal shows 6 outside, More inside, at least 20 bodies in the barn. Small signatures. Kids. 20 children. Storm's heart hammered. What about the dogs? 4 of them, patrolling the perimeter. Wizard, you got those tranquilizers? Loaded and ready, but I need to get within 50 yards. You'll have your shot. Ghost, cut their communications. Already on it. 30 seconds. Storm addressed his brothers through the headset. Listen up, this is what we train for. Alpha team takes the perimeter guards. Bravo team handles the main house. Charlie team secures the barn and the kids. Nobody dies unless they force it. We're here to rescue, not execute. But if they raise weapons toward children, you put them down. Understood? 29 voices answered in unison. Understood. Ghost, status on comms? Jammed. They're dark. No calls in or out. Then we go. Wizard, take out those dogs. Wizard moved forward on foot, his silhouette barely visible against the desert scrub. 4 soft pops. 4 dogs dropped without a sound. Dogs neutralized. Alpha team, move. 8 shadows detached from the group, flowing toward the perimeter guards like water finding cracks. Storm watched through binoculars. 1 guard went down, then another. Silent, professional. His brothers hadn't forgotten their training. Perimeter secure. Bravo team, main house, breach on my mark. 8 more men moved toward the main house, taking positions at doors and windows. Charlie team, with me. Storm led 12 men toward the barn. Emma had wanted to come. He'd left her with Reaper, hidden behind a rocky outcrop, with strict orders to protect her at all costs. The barn loomed larger as they approached. Reinforced doors, barred windows, a prison disguised as a farm building. 2 guards stood at the entrance, smoking, laughing about something. They stopped laughing when Storm's men appeared from the darkness. On the ground, now! 1 guard reached for his weapon. Bad choice. Storm's fist connected with his temple. The man crumpled. The 2nd guard dropped to his knees, hands raised. Please, please, I just work here. I don't touch the kids, I swear. Zip tie 'em. Storm stepped over the fallen guard. Breach the doors. 2 brothers hit the barn doors with a battering ram. Wood splintered. Hinges screamed. The smell hit Storm first. Unwashed bodies. Fear. Urine. Despair. He'd smelled it before. In Iraqi prisons. In Afghan compounds. The smell of human beings kept like animals. His flashlight swept the interior. Mattresses on the floor. Thin blankets. Buckets in corners. And huddled against the far wall, 20 small figures. Eyes wide. Bodies frozen. Children. Boys and girls. Ages 6 to 15. Different races. Different backgrounds. United by terror. It's okay, Storm said, his voice cracking. We're here to help. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore. A little boy in the front row started crying. Then a girl. Then all of them. 20 children, sobbing with relief and fear and confusion. Storm's vision blurred. He blinked hard. Wizard, get in here, now! The medic pushed past him, already assessing. I need light. I need water. I need... Oh, God. Storm followed his gaze. In the corner, separate from the others, a small figure with red hair. Sophie. She wasn't moving. Storm crossed the barn in 5 steps, dropped to his knees beside her. Sophie, Sophie, can you hear me? The girl's eyes fluttered open. Green, just like Emma had said, but dull, unfocused. Who? Her voice was barely a whisper. Who are you? My name is Storm. Your sister sent me. Sophie's eyes widened. For a moment, life sparked behind them. Emma? Emma's alive? She's alive. She's safe. She's here. She's been looking for you for months. Sophie's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her hollow cheeks. I thought she was dead. They told me she was dead. They said... They lied. Emma's alive. And she's the bravest person I've ever met. She found us. She led us here. To you. Sophie reached for Storm's hand. Her grip was weak, barely there. I want to see her, please. I need to see my sister. Storm keyed his radio. Reaper, bring Emma, now. Copy that, on our way. Gunfire erupted from the main house. Storm's head snapped toward the sound. Bravo team, status. Taking fire. 3 shooters barricaded in the second floor. 1 brother down, leg wound, non-critical. Can you hold? We can hold, but these guys aren't surrendering. Storm turned to his Charlie team. Secure these kids. Nobody gets in. Nobody gets out. He sprinted toward the main house. Muzzle flashes lit up the second-floor windows. His brothers had taken cover behind vehicles and outbuildings, returning fire in disciplined bursts. Where are they? Master bedroom, 2 windows, 3 shooters minimum. Storm grabbed a flashbang from his vest. Give me covering fire. I'm going in through the back. Storm, that's suicide. Covering fire, now. His brothers opened up. A wall of suppressive fire that forced the shooters back from the windows. Storm ran. Around the side of the house. Through a back door that hung half open. Up a servant's staircase that groaned under his weight. Second-floor hallway, smoke and chaos. The master bedroom door was closed. Gunfire still crackled from inside. Storm pulled the pin on his flashbang, kicked the door open, tossed the grenade. Bang! Blinding light, deafening sound. He went through the doorway before the flash faded. 3 men, disoriented, weapons wavering. Storm moved like the soldier he'd once been. First man, rifle butt to the face, down. Second man, kick to the knee, elbow to the throat, down. Third man raised his pistol. Storm grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun fired into the ceiling. He drove his forehead into the man's nose. Cartilage crunched. Blood sprayed. Down. Clear, Storm shouted. Second floor clear. His radio crackled. Boss, you need to get back to the barn. Now. What's wrong? Emma and Sophie. You just need to see this. Storm ran. Back down the stairs, across the yard, past his brothers who were securing prisoners and treating the wounded, into the barn, and stopped. Emma knelt on the floor beside Sophie's mattress. The 2 sisters held each other, faces buried in each other's shoulders, bodies shaking with sobs that had no sound. Emma still couldn't speak, but she didn't need to. 8 months of separation, 8 months of hell, 8 months of thinking the other was dead, ended, in this moment, in this barn, in each other's arms. Storm felt something break inside his chest, something that had been frozen since Iraq, since the children he couldn't save, since the nightmares that never stopped. He knelt beside them, put his arms around both girls, and for the first time in 15 years, Jake Storm Henderson cried. Around him, hardened bikers wiped their eyes. Combat veterans who'd seen horrors beyond description stood with tears streaming down their faces. 20 children watched, some still scared, some starting to understand. They were safe. They were free. They were going home. Ghost's voice broke through the emotion. Storm, we've got incoming. Multiple vehicles. 5 minutes out. Storm wiped his face, stood. How many? 3 SUVs. Could be reinforcements. Could be FBI. Or could be more of the bishop's men. What do we do? Storm looked at Emma and Sophie, still holding each other, still crying, finally reunited. He looked at the 20 children behind them, scared but alive. He looked at his brothers, bloody, exhausted, but unbroken. We hold this ground. Whatever comes, we protect these kids. That's what we came here to do. That's what we're going to do. He checked his weapon, chambered around. Positions, now. The Hell's Angels spread out, taking cover behind vehicles, buildings, hay bales, creating a defensive perimeter with the barn at its center. 3 sets of headlights appeared on the horizon, growing larger, growing closer. Storm stood at the front, alone, waiting. The first SUV screeched to a stop 50 yards away. Doors flew open. A woman stepped out. Red hair, FBI vest, hands raised. "Storm! It's Rachel! Stand down!" Storm lowered his weapon, just slightly. "You're early." "I broke every speed limit in Texas." Rachel Morgan walked toward him, her face grim. "Please tell me you found them." 22 children, alive, traumatized, but alive. Rachel closed her eyes, let out a breath. "Thank God." "Don't thank God. Thank the little girl who wrote SOS on my motorcycle." More agents poured from the SUVs, EMTs, evidence technicians, the cavalry finally arriving. Rachel looked at the compound, the bodies, the chaos. "This is going to be a jurisdictional nightmare." "I don't care about jurisdiction. I care about those kids." "I know." Rachel put her hand on his arm. "That's why I'm here." Officially, this was an anonymous tip that led to a federal raid. The Hells Angels were never here. And the traffickers will face federal charges, human trafficking, child exploitation, every charge I can make stick. They'll never see daylight again. "There's more." Storm handed her ghost tablet. "Financial records, client lists, names, addresses, bank accounts. This network goes deep, Rachel. Politicians, businessmen, people with power." Rachel scrolled through the files. Her face went pale. "Storm, some of these names—" "I know. That's why I'm giving it to you, the only agent I trust. Do something with it." She looked up at him, eyes hard with determination. "I will. I promise." Dawn broke over the desert, golden light spilling across the compound, illuminating the aftermath of the night's violence. EMTs loaded children into ambulances. Agents cataloged evidence. Handcuffed traffickers were shoved into transport vehicles. Storm found Emma and Sophie sitting on the tailgate of an ambulance. A paramedic had wrapped them in blankets, given them hot chocolate. They sat pressed together, hands intertwined. Emma looked up when Storm approached. She smiled, the first smile he'd seen on her face. And then she spoke. One word, barely a whisper, rough and broken from months of disuse, but clear. Storm. His name, from the lips of a child who hadn't spoken since her world fell apart. Storm dropped to his knees in front of her. "Yeah, sweetheart, I'm here." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Her mouth worked, struggling to form words her voice had forgotten how to make. "Thank you." Sophie leaned her head on her sister's shoulder. "She talked about you, in her head. She told me, said a man with thunder in his name would come, said he'd save us." Storm's throat closed. "She saved herself. She saved both of you. I just answered the call." Emma shook her head, reached out, placed her hand over Storm's heart. Her lips moved, forming words she couldn't quite speak yet, but Storm understood. "Family. You're family now." He covered her hand with his. "Yeah, I am." Behind them, the sun climbed higher. The compound that had been a house of horrors transformed into a crime scene. Evidence of evil being cataloged and collected. But here in this moment, none of that mattered. 2 sisters reunited, 20 children freed, and 50 brothers who'd answered a silent scream written in blood. The war wasn't over. The bishop was still out there. The network still had tentacles reaching into places of power. But today, right now, good had won. And that was enough. For now. 3 days passed since the compound raid. 3 days of FBI interviews, medical evaluations, and sleepless nights. Storm hadn't left Truth or Consequences. Couldn't leave. Not with Emma and Sophie still at Pastor Daniel's shelter. Not with the bishop still breathing. His phone rang at 6 a.m. Rachel Morgan. "We have a problem." Storm sat up in his motel bed. "Talk to me." "The client list ghost recovered. I started running names through the database. Storm, these aren't random predators. We're talking a federal judge, 2 state senators, a tech billionaire, the CEO of a defense contractor. So arrest them. I can't, not yet. The evidence is circumstantial. Financial transactions, coded communications, but nothing that directly ties them to the trafficking ring. If I move too fast, their lawyers will bury it. They'll walk. Storm's jaw tightened. What do you need? Direct testimony. Someone from inside the organization who can connect the dots. Someone who knows how the money flows and where the bodies are buried. The traffickers we captured? Lawyered up. Every single one. Expensive lawyers, Storm. The kind that show up within hours of an arrest. Someone's protecting them. Storm walked to the window. The morning sun was just breaking over the desert mountains. What about Volkov, the Russian? Gone. Vanished before we hit the compound. We found his office, his records, but the man himself? Ghost. He was tipped off. Had to be. Which means the leak in my department is still active. I can't trust my own people, Storm. That's why I'm calling you. Storm closed his eyes. He'd promised Emma and Sophie they were safe. He'd promised this was over. He'd lied. What do you want me to do? There's a woman, Natasha Petrova, former accountant for the network. She turned state's evidence 2 years ago, then disappeared before she could testify. Witnesses said she was terrified, said someone called the Bishop had put a price on her head. Where is she now? That's the thing. She reached out to me last night. Anonymous email. Said she's ready to talk, but she won't come in. Doesn't trust the FBI. Doesn't trust anyone. Except, Rachel paused. She saw the news coverage of the raid, saw that a motorcycle club had rescued those children. She asked for you specifically. Said if the Hells Angels could protect her, she'd tell everything. Storm's grip tightened on the phone. Where? Santa Fe. She's hiding somewhere in the city. She'll send coordinates when she's ready. But Storm, this woman knows things. Names, dates, locations. If the Bishop finds out she's surfaced, he'll send everything he has to silence her. Then we get to her first. Storm gathered his brothers within the hour. 30 men, exhausted but ready. Hammer had arrived with the rest of the club the previous night, furious that he'd missed the compound raid. Santa Fe, Storm told them. We're escorting a witness, high value. The people hunting her have unlimited resources and zero conscience. Who's the witness? Reaper asked. Former accountant for the trafficking network. She knows who the Bishop is. She knows where the money goes. She can bring down the entire operation. Ghost looked up from his laptop. If she's that valuable, why hasn't she been killed already? Because she's smart. She disappeared for 2 years, changed her identity, stayed off the grid, but she's tired of running, and she wants justice. Wizard raised his hand. What about the kids, Emma and Sophie? Storm had thought about this all morning. The girls had only just begun to heal. Sophie still flinched at loud noises. Emma's voice came and went, stronger some moments, vanishing entirely when fear took over. Taking them on another mission was unthinkable. But leaving them felt like abandonment. They stay here. Pastor Daniel's got security. 10 of our brothers will remain on guard. Nobody gets near those kids. And the other 22? Social Services is working on reunification. Some have families to go back to. Others, Storm's voice caught. Others don't. The room fell silent. Every man understood. Some of those children had been sold by the people who should have protected them. Going home wasn't an option. It was a death sentence. We'll figure that out later, Storm said finally. Right now we focus on the witness. We get her to safety, we get her testimony, and we burn this network to the ground. His phone buzzed. Unknown number, text message. Plaza de la Constitucion, 3 p.m. Come alone. Bring no weapons. Storm showed the message to Ghost. Can you trace it? Already trying. She's using a VPN routed through 6 countries. This woman knows her tradecraft. Former accountant my ass, Hammer muttered. She's got training. Doesn't matter what she was, matters what she knows. Storm checked his watch. We've got 5 hours, let's move. The ride to Santa Fe took 3 hours. Storm used the time to think, to plan, to worry. The Bishop, a name without a face, a puppet master pulling strings from the shadows, someone powerful enough to corrupt federal agents, buy expensive lawyers, and run a trafficking empire across multiple states. Who was he? A politician? A businessman? Someone in law enforcement? The not knowing gnawed at Storm's gut. He'd fought enemies he could see, insurgents in Iraq, rival gangs on American streets, men with faces and names and weaknesses. But the Bishop was a ghost, and ghosts were hard to kill. They reached Santa Fe at noon. Storm left his brothers at a staging area outside the city and rode in alone on his Harley. No weapons, as requested, just him and his cut. The plaza was crowded with tourists and locals enjoying the autumn afternoon. Storm found a bench near the central fountain and sat, waited. 2:45 p.m. Nothing. 2:55 p.m. Nothing. 3 p.m. His phone buzzed. Look left. Woman in blue scarf. Follow her. Don't speak. Storm turned his head. A woman in her 40s stood near a jewelry vendor, pretending to examine silver bracelets. Dark hair streaked with gray, blue scarf wrapped around her neck despite the warm weather. Eyes that never stopped moving. She walked away without looking at him. Storm followed. Through the plaza, down a narrow side street, past galleries and restaurants and shops selling turquoise and pottery. The woman never looked back, but she moved with purpose, taking turns seemingly at random. Counter-surveillance. She was checking for tails. After 15 minutes, she ducked into an alley. Storm followed. Empty. No, not empty. A door stood open at the alley's far end. Storm walked through. He found himself in a small courtyard behind a closed restaurant. The woman waited there, her back against the wall, her hand inside her purse. Jake Henderson, she said. Her accent was faint. Russian, maybe. Polished away by years in America. Natasha Petrova. That's not my name anymore, but it will do. She studied him with sharp green eyes. You don't look like a hero. I'm not. The news says different. 50 bikers rescue 22 children from trafficking compound. Leader is a decorated war veteran with a heart of gold. The news is wrong about most things. Something like a smile flickered across her face. I like you, Mr. Henderson. You don't pretend to be what you're not. She removed her hand from her purse, empty. I apologize for the precautions. In my experience, trust is a luxury that gets people killed. You wanted to meet. I'm here. Talk. Natasha's smile faded. I worked for them for 6 years. I was young, stupid. They told me I was doing accounting for an import-export business. By the time I realized what they were really importing, I was in too deep. They had leverage, photos, threats against my family back home. What changed? A girl, 8 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, American. They brought her through one of our processing centers. She looked at me, Mr. Henderson, looked right at me, and I saw myself in her eyes. What I had become, what I was helping them do. Natasha's voice cracked. I couldn't save her. They moved her before I could act. But I started copying files, recording conversations, building a case. I thought I could bring them down from the inside. Someone found out. The Bishop. He has eyes everywhere. People I thought were friends reported every move I made. I barely escaped with my life. Natasha pulled a small hard drive from her purse. But I took this, 6 years of records, every transaction, every client, every property, every name. Storm stared at the drive. That's what Rachel needs. Agent Morgan is a good woman, but her department is compromised. If I give this to her directly, it will disappear. Evidence will be lost. Witnesses will die. Natasha pressed the drive into Storm's hand. You take it. You decide who to trust. You make sure justice happens. Why me? Because you have nothing to lose. No career, no political aspirations, no fear of powerful men. Natasha's eyes bore into his. And because I saw what you did for those children. A man who would risk everything to save strangers is a man who will not be bought. Storm closed his fingers around the drive. Who is the bishop? Natasha's face went pale. That information will cost more than money. Name your price. Protection. For me, for my family. I have a sister in Phoenix, a nephew. The bishop knows about them, uses them as leverage. Get them somewhere safe, and I will tell you everything. Done. You don't understand. The bishop has resources. I have 50 brothers who just took down a fortified compound without losing a man. Your family will be safe by nightfall. Now tell me who I'm hunting. Natasha studied him for a long moment. Fear and hope warred in her eyes. Fear lost. Senator Marcus Webb. The name hit Storm like a physical blow. Webb? The senator from Arizona? He's on the Judiciary Committee. He passes anti-trafficking laws. The perfect cover, yes? Who would suspect the man leading the crusade against trafficking is actually running the largest network in the Southwest? Natasha's voice was bitter. He's been doing this for 15 years. Started small, grew his operation while growing his political power. Now he's untouchable, or so he believes. You have proof? On that drive, wire transfers to his accounts, encrypted messages with his code name, photos of him at private auctions. Natasha shuddered. He doesn't just run the operation, Mr. Henderson. He participates, personally. Storm's vision went red. Senator Marcus Webb, a man he'd seen on television talking about protecting children. A man who'd built a career on fighting the very evil he was committing. Where is he now? Phoenix. He has a fundraiser tonight, $500 a plate. All proceeds go to children's charities. Natasha laughed, but there was no humor in it. The devil hiding in plain sight. Storm's phone buzzed. Hammer. Boss, we've got movement. 2 black SUVs just entered the city. Professional drivers. Tactical approach patterns. Storm grabbed Natasha's arm. We need to move. Now. They found me? They found something. Come on. He pulled her through the courtyard back into the alley. Checked both directions. Clear. This way. They ran. Through winding streets. Past startled tourists. Storm's mind racing as fast as his feet. How had they been tracked? Natasha's precautions had been solid. Unless... Your phone. Give it to me. What? Your phone. Now. Natasha handed it over. Storm smashed it against a wall, scattered the pieces. Hey! They were tracking the device. Had to be. That's impossible. I bought it yesterday. Cash. No ID. Then they tracked something else. Your car. Your clothes. Something. Ghost's voice crackled through Storm's earpiece. Boss, I've got eyes on the SUVs. They're converging on your position. 2 blocks south, 1 block east. Exit route? North, 3 blocks to the staging area. But you've got foot pursuit incoming. 4 men, armed, trying to look like tourists. Storm spotted them. 4 men in casual clothes moving too purposefully, hands too close to their waistbands. Natasha, can you run? I was marathon runner before I was accountant. Good, because we're about to sprint. They ran. Storm led her through a crowded marketplace using the chaos as cover. Shouting vendors, confused shoppers, a mariachi band that scattered as they pushed through. Ghost, status. Pursuit is falling behind, but the SUVs are repositioning. They're trying to cut you off. Hammer, I need extraction. North side of the market. Already moving, 30 seconds. Storm burst out of the market onto a side street, empty except for a single motorcycle roaring toward them. Hammer. Get on! Storm shoved Natasha toward the bike. Go with him, he'll keep you safe. What about you? I'll draw them off. Go! Natasha climbed onto the back of Hammer's Harley. The big man gunned the engine. Don't die, boss. Not today. They roared away just as the four pursuers emerged from the market. Storm turned to face them. Gentlemen, looking for someone? The lead man raised his weapon. Storm moved. Years of combat training took over. He closed the distance before the man could fire, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun discharged into the pavement. Storm drove his elbow into the man's throat. Down. Second attacker came from the right. Storm ducked the swing, countered with a knee to the groin, grabbed the man's head, introduced it to a nearby wall. Down. Third and fourth attacked together. Storm caught a punch on his forearm, felt something crack, not his bone, the attacker's knuckle. He grabbed the man's collar, used his momentum to throw him into his partner. Both stumbled. Storm ran. Ghost, pick up location. 2 blocks north, Reapers waiting. Storm sprinted. His lungs burned. His knuckles throbbed. Behind him he could hear shouting, footsteps, the sound of vehicles accelerating. He rounded a corner. Reaper sat on his Harley, engine running. Get on, old man. Storm jumped onto the back of the bike. Reaper twisted the throttle. They shot forward just as an SUV appeared in the rearview mirror. Lose them! Working on it. Reaper drove like a demon, through alleys too narrow for the SUV, over curbs, through a parking garage, against traffic on a one-way street. The SUV fell behind, fell back, disappeared. We're clear, Ghost confirmed through the radio. All units rally at the secondary location. Storm let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Natasha? Safe with Hammer. They're already outside the city. Safe. For now. But the bishop knew they were hunting him. The element of surprise was gone. And Senator Marcus Webb had resources that made the compound look like a lemonade stand. This war was just getting started. They regrouped at a ranch outside Santa Fe, a property owned by a club ally, far from prying eyes. Natasha sat in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, her hands shaking around a cup of coffee. Storm sat across from her. You did good back there. I almost got us killed. But you didn't, and now we have the evidence we need. Natasha looked up. Her eyes were red, but dry. You believe me? About Webb? I believe the evidence. And I believe you risked your life to get it to us. That counts for something. It counts for nothing if he walks free. Storm leaned forward. He won't. I promise you that. How can you promise such a thing? He's a United States Senator. He has security. He has lawyers. He has friends in every law enforcement agency in the country. He doesn't have friends in this room. Storm gestured to his brothers gathered around them. He doesn't have 50 men who just watched what his network does to children. He doesn't have the evidence you collected. And he doesn't have the rage that's going to fuel us until he's behind bars or in the ground. Natasha studied him. You would kill a senator? I would do whatever it takes to protect innocent children. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Storm's phone rang. Rachel Morgan. Tell me you have good news. I have complicated news. The DOJ is taking over the trafficking investigation. They're sending a special prosecutor, someone outside my department, outside the potential leak. That's good. It's good if the prosecutor is clean. It's bad if Webb has already gotten to them. Who's the prosecutor? Rachel hesitated. That's the complicated part. It's Webb's former campaign manager, a woman named Elizabeth Chen. She left politics 2 years ago, joined the DOJ, built a reputation as a crusader against organized crime. Former campaign manager? That's a conflict of interest. On paper, maybe, but Chen and Webb had a falling out. Nobody knows why. She's been quietly investigating him ever since. Or she's been quietly protecting him. That's what I'm afraid of. Storm, I don't know who to trust anymore. Storm looked at the hard drive in his hand. 6 years of evidence. Names, dates, transactions. Enough to bring down an empire. If it reached the right hands. If. "I'll handle it," he said. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not trusting prosecutors or politicians or anyone else. We're going to make this evidence so public that it can't be buried. Every news outlet, every social media platform, every journalist who ever dreamed of a Pulitzer." "Storm, that's justice. That's justice, Rachel. The kind that doesn't depend on which lawyers show up or which judges get the case. The kind that can't be bought or buried or bargained away." Rachel was silent for a long moment. "You realize you'll be making enemies in very high places." "I already have enemies in very high places. At least this way, I'll have the public on my side." He hung up, turned to Ghost. "How long to copy that drive and upload it everywhere?" Ghost cracked his knuckles. "Give me an hour. By midnight, every news organization in the country will have Senator Webb's dirty laundry." "Do it." Storm walked outside. The New Mexico sky stretched endless above him, stars emerging as the sun set. Somewhere out there, Senator Marcus Webb was attending his fundraiser, shaking hands, kissing babies, pretending to be a hero. Tomorrow, the world would know the truth. Tomorrow, the hunt would truly begin. Storm's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You took something of mine. Now I take something of yours." His blood ran cold. Another buzz. A photo. Pastor Daniel's church. The shelter where Emma and Sophie were staying, surrounded by black SUVs. Storm was running before his brain finished processing. "Hammer, Reaper, everyone, now!" His brothers poured out of the ranch house. "What's wrong?" Storm showed them the photo. "They're going after the kids." 50 engines roared to life. The Hells Angels tore into the night, racing against time, racing against evil, racing toward the only family Storm had ever truly loved, and praying they wouldn't be too late. Storm's Harley screamed down the highway at 120 miles per hour. Wind tore at his face. Tears streamed from his eyes. Not from emotion, from speed, from fury. Emma, Sophie, 22 children. The bishop had them surrounded. His phone was pressed to his ear, Ghost's voice cutting through the roar. "I've got eyes on the church through the security cameras. 6 SUVs, at least 20 armed men. They haven't breached yet. They're waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For you. This is a trap, Storm. They want you to come. Then they're going to get what they want." "Boss, how long until we arrive?" 45 minutes at current speed." "Not fast enough." Storm twisted the throttle harder. The speedometer climbed past 130. Behind him, 49 brothers matched his speed. A thunder of chrome and steel racing against time. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. The bishop. Storm answered. "Henderson." The voice was cultured, calm. The voice of a man who'd won before the game even started. "I assume you're on your way. If you touch those children, please, I'm not a monster." A pause. "Well, not the kind of monster you're imagining. The children are leverage, nothing more. As long as you cooperate, they'll remain unharmed." "What do you want?" "The drive, the evidence Miss Petrova gave you. And the woman herself, of course. She has information that could prove inconvenient. You're a United States Senator. You have lawyers, fixers. Why do you need to threaten children?" Silence, then a laugh. "So she told you." "I wondered if she would." Webb's voice lost its polish. Something darker crept in. "Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Henderson. You're going to bring me the drive and the woman. You're going to do it within the hour. And in exchange, I'll let those precious children live. Simple transaction. Everyone wins. And if I refuse, then Pastor Daniel's lovely church becomes a mass grave. 22 children, plus the good pastor himself, plus whoever else happens to be inside." Webb's tone turned conversational. "I'll make sure it looks like a gas leak. Tragic accident. The news will run the story for a day, maybe 2. Then everyone will forget. That's how these things work. people forget. Storm's grip tightened on the handlebars until his knuckles went white. I'll kill you. Many have tried. None have succeeded. You have 1 hour, Mr. Henderson. Clock's ticking. The line went dead. Storm's mind raced. 1 hour. Not enough time to reach the church. Not enough time to coordinate with Rachel. Not enough time for anything except desperate action. Ghost, can you patch me through to the church? Already trying. No answer. They must have cut the landlines. What about our brothers guarding the kids? Radio silence. Either they're compromised or they're maintaining cover. Storm prayed it was the latter. Options, give me options. Hammer's voice came through the headset. We could call Rachel, have her send federal agents. Webb owns federal agents. He'll know before they even mobilize. Local cops? Same problem. We don't know who's dirty. Reaper spoke up. What about the media? Ghost was uploading the evidence. If it goes public before we get there, then Webb has nothing to lose. He kills the kids and disappears. Storm's voice was raw. No, we need to stall him. Buy time until we can get there. How? Storm thought of Emma, her courage, her sacrifice. A 12-year-old girl who'd bled to save herself and her sister. He couldn't let her down. Give him what he wants, or make him think we're giving him what he wants. Boss? Ghost, can you create a copy of the drive? Same files but corrupted? Something that looks right at first glance but falls apart under scrutiny? I can, but it'll only buy us maybe 30 minutes before they realize. 30 minutes is enough. And Natasha, can we fake her location? Make it look like she's coming when she's actually safe? GPS spoofing? Yeah, I can do that. Do it. Hammer, you take Natasha. Get her as far from here as possible. Arizona, Nevada, doesn't matter. Just keep her alive. Storm, if this goes wrong, then you make sure her testimony still gets out. You make sure Webb burns, even if I'm not around to see it. Hammer was quiet for a moment. You're not dying tonight, boss. Damn right I'm not. Now go. The formation split. Hammer and 10 brothers peeled off, escorting Natasha west. Storm led the remaining 40 riders toward truth or consequences, toward the church, toward Emma and Sophie. His phone buzzed, text from Ghost. Fake drive ready, sending fake GPS coordinates for Natasha. You'll have maybe 30 minutes before they figure it out. Storm called Webb. I have your drive, and the woman. We're coming in. Excellent decision. I knew you'd see reason. I want to talk to the children first. Proof of life. Don't trust me, Mr. Henderson? Would you? Webb laughed. Fair point. Hold on. Rustling sounds. Movement. Then a voice Storm would have recognized anywhere. Storm? Emma. His heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the space of a single breath. Emma, are you okay? Is Sophie with you? We're scared. There are men with guns. Pastor Daniel told us to stay quiet, but Sophie keeps crying and Her voice cracked. Are you coming? I'm coming, sweetheart. I promise. I'm coming right now. The man on the phone, the one with the nice voice, he said he'd hurt us if you didn't bring him something. Storm, what does he want? What did we do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault, you hear me? None of it. I'm scared. I know, but I need you to be brave. Just a little longer. Can you do that for me? Silence. Then, small but determined. Yes. That's my girl. I'll be there soon, I promise. Webb's voice returned. Webb's men are getting antsy. Thermal imaging shows them moving toward the church entrance. They might not wait the full hour. Can you create a distraction? Like what? I don't know. Set off car alarms. Trigger their phones. Something that makes them think twice about breaching. I can try the car alarms. Might buy us 5 minutes. Do it. 5 minutes later, Ghost reported success. The men around the church were scrambling, checking vehicles, shouting at each other. Confused. Good. 15 minutes out. Storm's phone rang again. Rachel. I heard what's happening. I'm mobilizing a team. No, you'll tip Webb off. Storm, I can't just... You can and you will. Your team moves. Rachel was silent. I need a distraction at the north side. Make it big. Make it noisy. Draw their attention away from the main entrance. What about you? Hammer's voice. He'd handed Natasha off and was racing back to join them. I'm going through the front door. Alone. A network of faces streaked with tears. Pastor Daniel knelt among them, his arms around as many as he could reach. A bruise darkened his cheek. His glasses were cracked. And there in the front row, Emma and Sophie. Emma saw Storm. Her whole body jerked forward, but a guard stepped in front of her. Stay still, girl. Emma's eyes locked onto Storm's. Terror and hope and love all mixed together. I'm here, Storm said quietly. I'm here, sweetheart. It's going to be okay. Touching, the voice came from behind him. Storm turned. Senator Marcus Webb walked down the center aisle like he owned the place. Expensive suit, perfect hair, a smile that had won him 3 elections. Mr. Henderson, thank you for being so reasonable. Let the children go. In time. First, I believe you have something for me. Storm reached into his jacket, pulled out the fake drive, held it up. Webb's eyes gleamed. 6 years of Miss Petrova's meticulous record-keeping. I must admit, I underestimated her. Most people who betray me don't survive long enough to cause this much trouble. She's smarter than you. Perhaps, but smart doesn't matter when you're dead. Where is she? Coming, separate vehicle. Should be here any minute. Webb studied him, searching for the lie. Storm kept his face blank. Years of poker games and interrogations had taught him that much. You know, Webb said conversationally, I admire you, truly. A man of conviction. A man who believes in something bigger than himself. In another life, we might have been allies. I don't ally with child rapists. Webb's smile flickered. Such crude language. I prefer to think of myself as a businessman. Supply and demand, Mr. Henderson. I don't create the demand, I simply fulfill it. Efficiently. Profitably. You're a monster. I'm a realist. The world is full of predators. I merely organized them, gave them structure, rules. If anything, I've made things safer for children. The ones I don't take, I mean. Storm's fists clenched at his sides. I'm going to enjoy watching you burn. Bold words from a man surrounded by my people. Webb glanced at his watch. Your friend should be arriving soon. Once I have both the evidence and the witness, you're free to go. Take the children, disappear. I'll even let you keep the memory of this little adventure. A souvenir. And if I refuse, then these 22 children join the thousands of others who've disappeared into my network over the years. I'll find uses for them, profitable uses. Webb's eyes slid toward Emma. That one especially. She's already famous. The girl who wrote SOS in blood. My buyers will pay premium for her. Storm moved before his brain gave permission. His fist connected with Webb's jaw. The senator stumbled backward, shock replacing arrogance. Guards surged forward. Storm felt arms grab him, force him to his knees. But he'd seen what he needed to see. Webb wasn't untouchable. Webb could bleed. That, Webb said, touching his split lip, was unwise. Hellfire! The word exploded from Storm's lungs. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the world erupted. The north wall of the church exploded inward. Not an explosion, a truck. One of the Hell's Angels had driven a pickup straight through the building. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Windows shattered. Guards dropped. Chaos consumed the sanctuary. Storm threw himself backward, slamming his skull into the guard behind him. The man's grip loosened. Storm twisted free. Emma! Sophie! Get down! The children screamed. Pastor Daniel threw himself over as many as he could, shielding them with his body. Storm dove for Webb. The senator was running, heading for the back exit, 2 guards flanking him. Storm tackled the first guard from behind. They went down hard. Storm's elbow found the man's temple, unconscious. Second guard turned, raised his weapon. Reaper appeared from nowhere, knife flashing. The guard dropped his gun, dropped to his knees, dropped face first onto the carpet. "Go!" Reaper shouted. "I've got this!" Storm ran, through the back exit, into the parking lot. Webb was climbing into an SUV. Storm grabbed the door before it could close. "You're not leaving." Webb pulled a pistol. Storm grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun fired into the ceiling of the vehicle. Storm yanked Webb out of the SUV and threw him onto the asphalt. "It's over, Webb. Your men are down. Your evidence is public. Ghost uploaded it while we were talking. Every news outlet in the country has your files, your photos, your client lists." Webb's face went pale. "You're lying. Check your phone." Webb pulled out his cell with shaking hands, opened a news app. Breaking: Senator Marcus Webb implicated in child trafficking ring. The color drained from his face. This can't be happening." "It's happening, and there's more coming." Natasha's testifying. Rachel Morgan's coordinating with prosecutors in 6 states. "Your lawyers can't bury this. Your fixers can't spin it. You're done." Webb looked up at Storm. For the first time, real fear showed in his eyes. "You don't understand. There are others. People above me. People who burn everything to protect themselves." "Then give me their names. If I talk, I'm dead. If you don't talk, you're still dead. But the kids you destroyed never get justice. Is that what you want? To go down in history as nothing but a monster?" Webb stared at him. Something shifted in his expression. Not remorse. Men like Webb didn't feel remorse, but calculation. The mind of a politician even now, even in defeat, looking for the best deal. "Protection, full immunity, witness protection for me and my family." "You don't get immunity. You get the chance to do one decent thing before you rot in prison. Take it or leave it." Webb's jaw worked. Then he nodded. "The bishop isn't one person. It's a network, a council. 5 members. I'm the lowest level. Above me are..." A gunshot cracked the night air. Webb jerked. Blood bloomed across his white shirt. He looked down at the wound with an expression of mild surprise, then collapsed. Storm spun, scanned the parking lot. Nothing. No shooter visible. "Ghost! Find that sniper!" "On it! Rooftop, 200 yards east. Shooter's already moving." Storm looked down at Webb. The senator's eyes were glassy. His breath came in wet gurgles. "Who else? Give me names." Webb's lips moved. A whisper Storm had to lean close to hear. "Judge, Harrison, Phoenix." His eyes went still. Senator Marcus Webb was dead. Storm stood slowly. His brothers were emerging from the church, helping children to safety. Sirens wailed in the distance. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. A council, 5 members. Webb was just the beginning. "Storm!" He turned. Emma ran toward him, Sophie right behind. They crashed into his arms, small bodies shaking, tears soaking his shirt. "You came," Emma whispered. "You really came." "I promised, didn't I?" "The bad man, he said terrible things. He said he was going to take us away again." Storm held them tighter. "Nobody's taking you anywhere. Not now, not ever. You're safe, both of you." Sophie looked up at him. Her green eyes were red from crying but clear. "Is it over?" Storm looked at Webb's body. At the church, now swarming with his brothers and Pastor Daniel's volunteers. At the children being loaded into vehicles, heading towards safety. This part is over. Webb can't hurt anyone anymore. "But there are others?" Storm hesitated. He didn't want to lie to these girls. they'd earn the truth. There are others, but I'm going to find them, and I'm going to stop them, every single one. Emma squeezed his hand. We want to help. You've already helped, more than you know. But right now, your job is to heal, to get strong, to be kids again. And your job? Storm looked at the stars emerging through the smoke in chaos. My job is to make sure there's a world worth growing up in. Rachel arrived 20 minutes later. FBI vehicles flooded the scene. Evidence was tagged. Survivors were interviewed. Bodies were covered. She found Storm sitting on the church steps, Emma and Sophie asleep against his shoulders. Webb's dead. I know. Sniper took him out before he could give us everything. But he gave you something. Storm nodded. A name. Judge Harrison. Phoenix. Federal judge. Very powerful. Very connected. Rachel's expression was grim. You realize this is far from over. I know. And you're not going to stop, are you? Storm looked down at the two girls sleeping against him, at the small Hell's Angel patches they still wore, the ones they'd been given at Pastor Daniel's church, what felt like a lifetime ago. Would you? Rachel studied him for a long moment. No, I wouldn't. She sat down beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Rachel broke the silence. What happens to them, Emma and Sophie? I don't know yet. Their mother's in prison. No other family we can find. Foster care? Storm's jaw tightened. Over my dead body. Then what? He didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that these girls had been through hell, and he wasn't going to let the system fail them again. Rachel stood, brushed off her pants. Get some rest, Storm. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Rachel, she turned. Thank you for believing in us. She smiled. It was tired and sad but genuine. You made it easy. Now get those girls somewhere safe. I'll handle the rest. She walked away, back into the chaos of lights and sirens and official procedures. Storm stayed where he was. Emma stirred against his shoulder. Storm? Yeah, sweetheart? Are you our family now? The question hit him harder than any blow he'd taken tonight. Family. He thought about his brothers, the men who'd ridden into hell with him, who'd risked everything for children they'd never met. He thought about Lily. No, Emma, the girl who'd started all of this with 3 letters written in blood. He thought about Sophie, rescued from darkness, finding her sister again after thinking she was dead. Family wasn't always blood. Sometimes it was the people who showed up when you needed them most. Yeah, Storm said softly. I think I am. Emma smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her since this nightmare began. Good, she murmured, already falling back asleep. I'm glad. Storm held them close. Above, the stars continued their eternal vigil. Around him, the chaos slowly faded. And somewhere in Phoenix, Judge Harrison had no idea that death was coming for him on 2 wheels. 2 weeks had passed since Senator Webb died on that church parking lot. 2 weeks of FBI raids, congressional hearings, and media frenzy. The trafficking network was bleeding, but it wasn't dead. Storm sat in Pastor Daniel's office, a stack of files spread across the desk. Ghost had compiled everything they knew about Judge Harrison and the remaining council members. 4 names, Ghost said, pointing to photographs. Harrison's the biggest. Federal judge, 30 years on the bench, connected to 3 presidents. But there's also Victoria Chen, tech billionaire, Marcus Rivera, head of a private security firm, and the last one, we don't have a name, just a code, the Shepherd. The Shepherd runs the whole thing? Best we can figure, Webb was terrified of him. Natasha says even Volkov wouldn't say his name out loud. Storm studied the photos. Powerful people, protected people, the kind who never face consequences, until now. What's Harrison's weakness? His son, David Harrison, 28 years old, drug problems, gambling debts. The judge has been covering for him for years. But here's the interesting part. David's been making noise about going public. Apparently, dear old dad forced him to participate in some activities. David wants out. Where is he? Phoenix, rehab facility, very private, very expensive. Storm's phone buzzed. Rachel Morgan. Turn on the news, Channel 4. He grabbed the remote. The screen flickered to life. A press conference. FBI director standing at a podium. Behind him, a massive display showing photographs, documents, names. The largest human trafficking investigation in American history. Today we are announcing the arrest of 47 individuals across 6 states, including prominent business leaders, law enforcement officials, and elected representatives. These arrests are the direct result of evidence provided by confidential sources, as well as the tireless work of our agents in the field. Storm watched as face after face appeared on screen. Buyers, facilitators, the mid-level managers of evil, but not Harrison, not Chen, not Rivera, not the shepherd. They're throwing the small fish to the wolves, Rachel said through the phone, protecting the big ones. Harrison paid someone off? The order came from Washington. DOJ shut down our investigation into the judge 3 days ago. National security concerns. That's horseshit. Of course it is, but it's official horseshit, which means my hands are tied. Storm's jaw tightened. Mine aren't. Storm, don't do anything. He hung up. Hammer stood in the doorway. What's the play, boss? Phoenix, tonight, we're going to have a conversation with David Harrison. The ride to Phoenix took 5 hours. Storm brought only 10 brothers, a surgical strike rather than an army. Ghost ran operations remotely, feeding them information through encrypted channels. The rehab facility was called Serenity Springs. High walls, security cameras, the kind of place where celebrities and politicians' kids dried out away from public scrutiny. Cameras are looped, Ghost reported. You've got 15 minutes before the night shift does their rounds. Storm and Reaper slipped over the back wall, moved through manicured grounds toward the private bungalows. David Harrison's unit was at the far end. Isolated, expensive. Storm knocked. The door opened. A young man stood there, thin and hollow-eyed, the ghost of privilege wasting away. Who the hell are you? Someone who can help you disappear, or someone who can make sure your father's crimes become very, very public. Your choice, David. David's face went pale. How do you know my name? I know everything. The parties your father made you attend, the things you saw, the things you did because he threatened to cut you off. Storm stepped closer. I know you've wanted out for years. I'm offering you that chance. You're crazy. My father will destroy you. Your father can't even save himself. Webb is dead. The network is collapsing. Harrison's the next domino to fall. Storm pulled out his phone, showed David the news coverage. See? It's already happening. The only question is whether you go down with him or help us bring him to justice. David stared at the screen. His hands trembled. If I talk, he'll kill me. He'll try to kill you anyway. You're a liability, a loose end. How long before he decides you're more useful dead than alive? The words hit David like physical blows. Storm watched the truth sink in. What do you want to know? Everything. Names, dates, locations. But most importantly, I want to know about the shepherd. David's face crumpled. God, you're asking me to commit suicide. I'm asking you to save your soul. The young man walked to his bed, sat down heavily, put his head in his hands. The shepherd is the one who started everything. 30 years ago, he was FBI, high-ranking. He saw how the trafficking networks operated and realized he could do it better, more efficiently, with protection from the inside. FBI? Current or former? Former, but he still has connections, deep ones. That's how he's stayed hidden this long. Name, David. Give me a name. David looked up. Tears streamed down his face. Franklin Cross. Storm's blood went cold. Franklin Cross, former deputy director of the FBI, National hero. The man who'd brought down 3 major organized crime families in the 90s. Now retired, living quietly in Scottsdale. You're sure? I met him once. My father took me to a party at his estate. I was 19. I saw things that night. David's voice broke. I tried to forget. I couldn't. That's why I started using, to make the memories go away. Storm looked at Reaper. The younger man's expression was grim. Cross has been playing both sides for decades, David continued, building the network while pretending to fight it. Every time someone got close, he made them disappear, or promoted them somewhere they couldn't do damage. Rachel Morgan, is she compromised? Morgan? No. Cross tried to recruit her years ago. She refused. That's why she's been stuck in Albuquerque instead of running a field office. Storm processed this. Rachel was clean. One ally he could trust completely. What about Harrison? How do we get to him? David laughed bitterly. You can't. He's got security everywhere. Former Secret Service, military contractors. The only time he's vulnerable is... He stopped. Is what? There's an event every year. Cross hosts a gathering at his estate. Very exclusive. The council meets. Major buyers attend. It's happening in 3 days. Where? Scottsdale. Cross's ranch. 500 acres. Private security. No phones allowed inside. No recording devices. They sweep for everything. How many people? 40, 50, plus security, maybe 100 total. Storm's mind raced. 100 armed hostiles. Limited intel. 3 days to plan. Impossible odds. But Emma and Sophie's faces flashed in his memory. The children in that barn. The scars on Emma's hands. We're going to that party, Storm said. David stared at him. You're insane. Probably, but I'm also the only chance those children have. Storm gathered his brothers at a safe house outside Phoenix. 20 men now. Hammer had brought reinforcements while Storm was interviewing David. The Cross estate is a fortress, Ghost reported, displaying satellite images on his laptop. Main house, guest quarters, a barn that used to hold horses but now holds other things. Security perimeter with cameras, motion sensors, armed patrols. Weaknesses? The event itself. With 50 guests plus security, there's chaos. People moving everywhere. Catering trucks coming and going. That's our window. Reaper studied the images. We go in with the catering crew? Some of us. Others position outside, ready to breach when things go sideways. Hammer shook his head. This is crazy, Storm. We're not talking about a motel or even a compound. This is a fortified estate filled with the most powerful predators in the country. They'll have escape routes. They'll have contingencies. They'll have... I know what they'll have. Storm's voice was steel. They'll have evidence, recordings, files, the kind of documentation that people like Cross keep to ensure mutual destruction if anyone betrays them. If we get that evidence, we don't just take down Cross, we take down everyone. And if we don't get it, then we die trying, but those bastards don't get to walk away. Ghost raised his hand. There might be another way. David mentioned no phones allowed inside, but Cross is paranoid. He records everything that happens at these events. Insurance, in case anyone turns on him. Where are the recordings stored? That's the question. Somewhere on the property, probably a secure server in the main house. If I can get physical access, I can download everything. You want to go inside? Ghost smiled thinly. I didn't spend 12 years at the NSA learning to type. I learned infiltration, social engineering, how to become invisible in plain sight. He gestured at his thin frame, his unremarkable face. Nobody remembers the IT guy, Storm. Let me be the IT guy. Storm considered. Ghost was good, maybe the best at what he did. But if he got caught, you sure about this? Those kids in the barn, Sophie barely surviving, Emma writing her name in blood. Ghost's eyes hardened. Yeah, I'm sure. Storm nodded slowly. All right, Ghost goes in as tech support. Reaper and I handle the catering angle. Everyone else, perimeter positions. When the signal comes, we hit them from every direction. What signal? Storm thought for a moment. When you hear Judgment Day, come in hard. Don't stop until they're all in cuffs or in the ground. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Ghost fabricated credentials for a tech company that serviced the estate's security systems. Reaper infiltrated the catering company, replacing a driver who suddenly came down with food poisoning, courtesy of Wizard's pharmaceutical expertise. Storm focused on the bigger picture, coordinating with Rachel, who'd gone off-book to support them, preparing extraction routes, making sure Emma and Sophie were safe with Pastor Daniel, surrounded by brothers who'd die before letting anyone near them. The night before the operation, Storm visited the girls. Emma was sitting on her bed, drawing in a sketchbook. Her voice had fully returned now, scratchy and soft, but present. Sophie sat beside her, watching. "Storm," Emma looked up with a smile. "You came." "I always come when I promise." "You're going somewhere dangerous tomorrow, I can tell." Storm sat on the edge of the bed. "How can you tell?" "Your eyes, they go dark when you're scared." "I'm not scared, liar." But she said it with affection. "You're scared for us. You're always scared for us." Storm took her hand. The scars from that desperate act at the truck stop were fading now, turning into thin white lines that would eventually blend into her skin. "I'm going to finish this, Emma. What I started when I saw your message. I'm going to make sure the people who hurt you can never hurt anyone else. And then? And then I'm coming back. We're going to figure out what family looks like for the three of us." Sophie leaned forward. "You mean we can stay with you? For real?" "If you want to. If you'll have me." Both girls threw their arms around him. "We want to," Emma whispered. "We want to more than anything." Storm held them tight. These girls had been through hell. They'd lost their childhood, their innocence, their faith in the world. But somehow, impossibly, they still had the capacity to love, to trust. He wouldn't let them down. The day of the gathering dawned hot and bright over the Arizona desert. Storm rode with Reaper in the catering van, wearing server uniforms that felt like costumes. Ghost had gone in earlier, posing as a tech consultant called to fix a security system glitch. "Comms check," Storm said quietly. "Ghost, in position. I'm in the security hub. They bought my credentials completely. Hammer, perimeter team Alpha ready. Wizard, perimeter team Beta ready. Reaper and I are approaching the main gate." The van rolled to a stop at the security checkpoint. 2 armed guards approached. "Catering for the Henderson event," Reaper said, using the fake name Ghost had provided. The guard checked his clipboard, walked around the van, opened the back to inspect the food containers. Storm held his breath. "Clear. Proceed to the service entrance." They drove through. The estate sprawled before them. Manicured lawns, a massive main house that looked like something from a magazine. Guest cottages scattered across the property, and everywhere, security. Armed men with earpieces and cold eyes. "Lot of hardware," Reaper muttered. "Stay focused." They parked at the service entrance, unloaded trays of appetizers and champagne, moved through the house like ghosts, invisible in their uniforms. The main gathering was happening in the great room. Storm caught glimpses through open doors, men and women in expensive clothes, laughing, drinking, acting like they weren't monsters. He spotted Harrison. The judge was holding court near the fireplace, surrounded by admirers. And there, at the center of it all, sat Franklin Cross, the shepherd, white-haired, distinguished, the face of a man who'd spent his life being photographed next to presidents and receiving medals for valor. Storm's hands clenched around the serving tray. "Easy," Reaper whispered. "Not yet." They circulated, served drinks, listened. "The new supply lines are secure. Myanmar has been very cooperative. Prices are up 15% this quarter. Demand exceeds supply, as always." The Albuquerque situation was unfortunate, but Webb was becoming a liability anyway. Storm's stomach churned. These people discussed human trafficking like it was a stock portfolio. Ghost's voice came through his earpiece. I'm into the server, downloading now. This is going to take about 10 minutes. Can you speed it up? Not without triggering alerts. Patience, Storm. Patience. While surrounded by the architects of Emma and Sophie's nightmares. Henderson! Storm froze. A hand clapped his shoulder. He turned. Judge Harrison stood there, champagne glass in hand, a smile on his face. I thought I recognized you from the server photos. You're the biker, aren't you? The one who's been causing all this trouble. Storm's heart hammered. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Don't insult my intelligence. Harrison's smile widened. Did you really think you could walk into Franklin's house without us knowing? We've been tracking your little operation for days. Storm's hand moved toward his concealed weapon. Don't. Harrison shook his head. There are 40 armed security personnel in this building. You'd be dead before you cleared the holster. Then why are you talking to me instead of having me killed? Because Franklin wants to meet you. He's impressed, believe it or not. Very few people have caused us this much trouble. Harrison gestured toward a side room. This way. And please, don't make a scene. We wouldn't want anything to happen to those lovely little girls you've adopted. Storm's blood ran cold. If you've touched them, they're perfectly safe. For now, they'll stay that way as long as you cooperate. Harrison's eyes hardened. Move. Storm caught Reaper's eye across the room, gave a subtle shake of his head. Not yet. He followed Harrison through a door into a private study. Franklin Cross sat behind a massive desk, looking exactly like what he was, a predator in a $3,000 suit. Mr. Henderson, please, sit. I'll stand. As you wish. Cross steepled his fingers. I've been watching your crusade with great interest. The compound raid, the Santa Fe chase, the dramatic rescue at Pastor Daniel's church. Very cinematic. You murdered Webb. Webb was a liability, emotional, careless. He would have talked eventually, and I can't have that. Cross smiled. But you're something different, a true believer, a man who can't be bought or intimidated. Is this the part where you offer me a job? Cross laughed. Hardly. I know your type. You'd rather die than compromise your principles. Very admirable, very inconvenient. Then what do you want? A trade. You have Natasha Petrova. You have David Harrison. Both valuable assets that I'd very much like to recover. In exchange, I'm willing to let you and your brothers leave here alive. The children too. Everyone goes home. Everyone moves on. And the network continues. The network is bigger than you can imagine, Mr. Henderson. Bigger than Webb. Bigger than me. You could kill everyone in this room, and tomorrow someone else would take our places. The demand is eternal. We merely supply. Storm stepped closer to the desk. You know what I saw in that barn? 20 children. Some of them couldn't remember their own names. Some of them flinched when anyone touched them. Some of them had been so broken, so damaged that they might never recover. Regrettable, but I'm not finished. Storm's voice dropped to a whisper. I also saw Emma, 12 years old. Hadn't spoken in months because the trauma had stolen her voice. She cut herself open to write 3 letters on my motorcycle. SOS. That's how desperate she was. That's what your network did to her. Touching, but I made her a promise. I told her the people who hurt her would face justice, and I'm going to keep that promise. Cross's smile faded. You're in no position to make threats. Ghost, status? Static crackled in his ear. Then, download complete. I've got everything. Financial records, video files, names, dates, locations. It's all here, Storm. Storm smiled. I'm in exactly the right position. Cross's expression changed. Uncertainty flickered behind his eyes. What did you do? Your entire server, downloaded, already being uploaded to every news outlet, every law enforcement agency, every social media platform on the planet. By morning, the whole world will know exactly who you are and what you've done. Cross surged to his feet. Security! Judgment Day. The words left Storm's lips like a prayer, and the world exploded. The study doors burst open, but it wasn't Cross's security. It was Hammer, weapon drawn, followed by a dozen Hell's Angels. Buildings secured, Hammer reported. Your perimeter teams folded the second we moved. How? Cross sputtered. You're not the only one with connections, Storm said. Rachel Morgan's been building a task force for months. Off the books. Agents she trusts. They've been waiting for this moment. Gunfire erupted somewhere in the house. Screams, the sound of breaking glass. Your guests are being arrested as we speak, Storm continued. Every buyer, every facilitator, every monster who came here thinking they were untouchable. Cross's face twisted with rage. You have no idea what you've unleashed. There are people above me, people who... I know about your counsel, and I know they're watching right now. Storm gestured to the security cameras. Ghost made sure every feed from this estate is being broadcast live. The whole world is watching, Cross, including your partners, including the politicians and businessmen who protected you. Cross lunged for a desk drawer. Storm was faster. His fist connected with the older man's jaw. Cross went down hard. Franklin Cross, you're under arrest for human trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 100 other charges Rachel will explain on the way to federal lockup. You'll never make this stick. My lawyers... Your lawyers are being arrested too, along with the judges you bought, along with everyone else on your payroll. Storm knelt beside him. It's over. The shepherd has been found. Rachel appeared in the doorway, FBI vest over her suit, weapon drawn. Building secure, 53 arrests and counting. She looked at Cross with undisguised disgust. Hello, Franklin. Remember when you tried to recruit me 20 years ago? I told you then that someday someone would bring you down. I just didn't expect it would be a biker from New Mexico. Cross said nothing. His face was blank, defeated. They dragged him out in handcuffs, past the other guests being processed by federal agents, past the security guards who'd surrendered the moment they realized their employer's empire was crumbling. Storm walked through the chaos in a daze. It was over. 3 weeks since Emma wrote those letters in blood. 3 weeks of war. 3 weeks of watching monsters fall one by one. His phone buzzed. Video call from Pastor Daniel. Emma and Sophie's faces filled the screen. Storm, we saw the news. They're saying you arrested everyone. Not just me. A lot of people worked together to make this happen. But you started it. You answered my message. Storm felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them back. I answered because you were brave enough to send it. You saved yourself, Emma. You saved Sophie. You saved all those other children. I just helped. Emma was crying now. Happy tears. Healing tears. When are you coming home? Home. The word hit Storm like a revelation. Home wasn't a place anymore. It was 2 girls who'd survived hell and chosen to trust him. It was brothers who'd ridden into battle at his side. It was a community that had rallied around the broken and vulnerable. Soon, sweetheart, real soon. 1 month later, Storm stood in a courthouse in Albuquerque, wearing a suit that Hammer had threatened him with bodily harm to put on. The judge looked down at him, at Emma and Sophie standing on either side, at the paperwork that would make their bond legal. Mr. Henderson, you understand the responsibilities of adoption? These children have been through significant trauma. They'll need support, patience, and love. Yes, Your Honor. And you girls, Emma, Sophie, you understand what this means? Jake Henderson will become your legal father. Are you certain this is what you want? Emma squeezed Storm's hand. He already is our father. This just makes it official. Sophie nodded. He saved us. Now we're saving him right back." The courtroom laughed softly. Even the judge smiled. "Very well. By the power vested in me, I hereby grant this petition for adoption. Congratulations, Henderson family." The gavel came down. Emma and Sophie threw their arms around Storm. He held them tight, tears streaming down his face. Family. He'd spent 15 years running from the ghosts of Iraq, running from the children he couldn't save, running from the man he'd been. Now he was finally home. Outside the courthouse, the Hells Angels waited. 50 brothers in full colors, their bikes gleaming in the afternoon sun. They cheered as Storm emerged with his daughters. "About time you made it official," Hammer said, grinning. "Couldn't have done it without you, any of you." Pastor Daniel stepped forward. "We're having a celebration at the church tonight. The whole town's coming. You three are the guests of honor." Storm looked at Emma and Sophie. "What do you say, girls? Ready to meet your new community?" Emma smiled, that bright, unguarded smile that had been so rare when he first met her. "Ready." They rode back to Truth or Consequences in formation. Emma on Storm's bike, Sophie with Hammer. 50 Harleys thundering through the desert like a river of chrome and hope. The town had transformed in the weeks since the news broke. What had once been suspicion toward the Hells Angels had become respect, gratitude, even love. Businesses displayed "thank you" signs in their windows. Children waved from sidewalks. The mayor had declared a Hells Angels Day in their honor. At the church, the celebration was already underway. Food and music and laughter. The rescued children who'd stayed in town were there, healing, growing, starting new lives. Storm stood apart for a moment, watching his daughters run to join the other kids. Natasha appeared beside him. She decided to stay in Truth or Consequences, her testimony ensuring she'd never have to run again. "You did something remarkable. We did something remarkable, all of us. But you started it. You answered when a scared little girl called for help." Storm watched Emma laugh at something Sophie said. That sound, the sound of his daughter's laughter, was worth more than any victory. "I almost didn't. When I saw those letters on my tank, part of me wanted to look away, to pretend I hadn't seen. It would have been easier. But you didn't." "No, I didn't." Natasha touched his arm. "That's what separates heroes from everyone else, Storm. Not the big victories, the small choices. The moment you decide to get involved when you could have walked away." Rachel Morgan joined them, a beer in her hand. "Final count, 312 arrests across 12 states. The network is dismantled. The council is in federal custody. We're still finding victims and reuniting them with families." She raised her bottle. "Because one biker decided to give a damn." "Because one girl decided to fight," Storm corrected. "I just followed her lead." Emma ran over, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "Dad, Sophie wants to learn to ride motorcycles. Can we get bikes? Can you teach us?" "Dad." The words still surprised him, still filled him with a warmth he'd never known he could feel. "Maybe when you're older." "How much older?" "At least until you can reach the handlebars." Emma laughed and ran back to her sister. Storm watched her go. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a mute girl writing SOS in blood. Now she was a daughter, a sister, a survivor who'd refused to be broken. Hammer appeared with 2 beers, handed one to Storm. "Hell of a ride, boss." "Hell of a ride. What's next?" Storm looked at his brothers, at his daughters, at the community that had embraced them. "We keep riding. We keep watching. And if another kid writes a message in blood somewhere, we answer." The Hells Angels, Child Trafficking Division. Storm almost laughed. "Something like that." "Works for me." They clinked bottles. The sun set over the New Mexico desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Music drifted from the church. Children played, families gathered, and in the center of it all, a man who'd been running from his past finally found his future. Storm Henderson had gone to war against monsters. He'd won. But more importantly, he'd found something worth fighting for. something worth living for, something worth being called Dad for. Emma and Sophie ran over again, grabbing his hands. Come dance with us. I don't dance. You do now, come on. They pulled him toward the music, toward the light, toward the life he'd never imagined he could have. And for the first time in 15 years, Jake Storm Henderson didn't fight it. He let himself be happy. He let himself be home. He let himself be loved. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't won on battlefields. They're won in the hearts of children who've been given a second chance. In the bonds of brotherhood forged in fire. In the quiet moments when a father holds his daughters and knows, truly knows, that everything he suffered, everything he fought, everything he risked was worth it. 3 letters changed everything. SOS. A cry for help became a call to action. A mute girl found her voice. A broken man found his family. And 50 bikers in leather proved that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear cuts. Sometimes they ride Harleys. And sometimes, when a child screams in silence, they answer. The Hell's Angels answered, and the world was never the same.